Good morning, students. Today we are going to discuss about the agents of pollination. Previous class we have discussed about the pollination, their types, and now we are going to discuss about the agents of pollination. We know that pollination is affected by many agents like wind, water, insects. On the basis of the agents that bring about pollination, the mode of pollination is divided into abiotic and biotic. Some of them are abiotic agents, some of them are biotic agents. The latter type, that means the biotic type, is used by majority of plants. Now we are going to discuss the basis of the agents. There are two types: abiotic agents. In your syllabus has been discussed two things: wind and water. If the pollination is affected by wind, it is called anemophily. Already we know the term. And second is called the hydrophily, when the pollination is affected by water. These two are discussed in abiotic agents, and biotic agents, it is called the zoophily. Zoophily refers to, zoo means animal, we know. Zoophily refers to pollination through animals, and the pollination through insects is called entomophily. Now next part we are going to discuss about all these three types, that is anemophily, hydrophily, and the definition we will be discussing. After that, what are the characteristic features shown by the plants if they are pollinated by wind and water. With example we will be discussing. Now first one is called anemophily. Pollination takes place by wind. The wind pollinated flowers are called the anemophilous flowers. Philous means liking. Wind liking flowers, the pollination will be taking place by wind. The wind pollinated plants are generally situated in wind exposed regions. That means where the high speed wind is blowing, those areas plants will be pollinated by wind. Anemophily is a chance event. Therefore, the pollen may not reach to the target flower effectively and are wasted during the transmit. During the transmit means transfer from one flower to another flower. Transmit from one flower to another. The common examples of wind pollinated flowers are grasses, sugarcane, bamboo, coconut, palm, maize. These are all the examples for 1 mark question. Example of wind pollinated plant. Now next part we are discussing, I told that one, what are the characteristic features will be shown by the flowers which will be pollinated by wind. So it may come for 5 marks question, or 3 marks or 2 marks. Any type of question may be asked. So target for the 5 marks question. Now one by one, there are so many points have been discussed. First point, the flowers are produced in pendulous, catkin-like and spike inflorescence. Already all these terms we have discussed in first volume in 11th standard, types of inflorescence. Number 2, the axis of inflorescence elongates so that the flowers are brought well above the leaves. That means to be exposed to wind to catch the pollen grains. Number 3, the perianth is absent or highly reduced. Calyx and corolla may be absent. That is called perianth. Next point, the flowers are small, inconspicuous, not visible, very small. Colorless, not scented, do not secrete nectar. Nectar will be produced by the flowers which are insect pollinated, but because the nectar, sweet smell of nectar will attract the insects. So in case of wind pollinated plants or wind pollinated flowers need not produce or secrete any nectar. Next point, stamens are numerous. Why? No. When the pollination will be taking place by wind, it is a chance event. Just now I have discussed chance event. Lot of pollen grains may be wasted. That's why plants will be producing the more and more pollen grains. So automatically stamens are also numerous. Filaments are long, exerted and versatile, can move at any direction. Anthers produce enormous quantity. Just now I told anthers produce enormous, large quantities. Enormous means large quantities of pollen grains compared to number of ovules available for pollination. They are minute, very small, lightweight, otherwise wind cannot carry them, and dry so that they can be carried to long distances by wind. The next point, in some plants, anthers burst violently and release the pollen grain into the air. Example, Artica. One more question. Which plant the anthers burst violently? Artica is the example. Now next point, stigmas are comparatively large, protruding. It will come out from the flowers, or sometimes may be branched and feathery, so that it can easily catch the pollen grains when wind will be taking the pollen grains to the another place. Adapted to catch the pollen grains. Generally, single ovule is present. And the last point, plants produce flowers before the new leaves appear. So the pollens can be carried without hindrance, without any prevention. They can carry the pollen grains without any hindrance or off leaves. So these are the characteristic features of wind pollinated flowers or anemophilous flowers. Next part, one example I told, the pollination in maize. Just now example we have told the anemophilous flowers. So maize is an example of anemophilous flower. So pollination in maize, how does it take place? The maize is monoecious. So I told just now, previous class we have discussed monoecious means male and female flowers will be in the same plant. And unisexual, that means flowers are unisexual. Only one essential organ or reproductive organ will be present. So flowers will be maybe male or female flower. The male inflorescence, it is called the tassel, Tassel, to bone terminally, and the female inflorescence, it is called the cob, Cob. If you see the diagram, it is male inflorescence, it is called tassel, which is present at the terminal region of the plant's body, and the female inflorescence present below the male inflorescence at lower levels. Maize pollens are large and heavy and cannot be carried out by wind. So, the mild wind shakes the male inflorescence to release the pollen, which falls vertically below. So the female inflorescence, as it is present below the male inflorescence, automatically the pollen grains will be falling on the stigma, which is having the long stem, female inflorescence having the long stigma, which is called the silk. Violet color, we can see the silk measuring about 23 centimeter in length, which projects beyond the leaves. So the pollen grains drop from the tassel is caught by the stigma. So the pollination in maize takes place in this way, where the plants are monoecious and unisexual flowers appear. Now next, second type, abiotic factor which is called the hydrophily. Water is responsible for pollination. So pollination by water is called hydrophily, and the flower pollinated by water, they are called hydrophilous flowers. Example, Vallisneria hydrilla. Though there are a number of aquatic plants, only a few plants pollination takes place by water. The floral envelope of hydrophilous flowers are reduced or absent. Floral envelope means calyx, corolla, all these floral envelopes in hydrophilous plants are absent. In water plants, example, Eichhornia and water lily, pollination takes place through wind or by insect. There are two types of hydrophily. First type, it is called epihydrophily. Underline the epihydrophily and hypohydrophily. What is the meaning of these two words? Epihydrophily, they are hydrophilous plants, and the pollination will be taking place on the level of water, that means surface of water body or aquatic body. pollination will be taking place, and hypohydrophily, the pollination will be taking place under the water. So in most of the hydrophilous flowers, the pollen grains possesses mucilage covering which protects them from wetting. Now first one will be discussing, it is called epihydrophily. Pollination occurs at the water level. Just now I told example, Vallisneria spiralis and Elodea. Now next part we will be discussing how does the pollination take place in Vallisneria spiralis in the next class. Thank you, children.